from the Bizarro Files and from Scarlet Rhapsody with three of the coolest people I know. Justin, Mark, and Samantha, also known as Jew Wario, Pyscho Otaku, and Psykoneko. See, they're cool because they actually say stuff right, and I'm not. See, that's how it works.
I think Square Enix can sue us.
I think the question that probably most people have while watching your shows is, where did you guys come up with the characters? Ladies first, of course.
I've had my Goth Lily dress for a little while. It just made sense that I would just make the personality the same as the outfit, basically. And I started purchasing wigs randomly. So that's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of like snowballed from there. It wasn't really like a plan, except for that I definitely wanted to be some kind of anime stereotype.
And the character of the Psycho Otaku basically stems from my professional wrestling background. I've been in professional wrestling for 11 years under the name of Hop Sing Lee, which is a horrible Asian stereotype, but it seems to work for professional wrestling. And so I basically took that character and I decided to make him more of a crazed Japanese otaku, a crazed fan. And it's like I learned from Jim Cornette, who is a manager in wrestling, who says you just take your personality and then just turn it up to 11. And once you do that, you can create a character who has truth. And the best characters have the best truth behind them.
For me, I started off Jew Wario as just myself. Jew Wario was just an online name that I was going to be using. And so when I started my videos, it was actually just me at the time. And it kind of changed into a character named Jew Wario. And so, who was separate from Justin. And he's just kind of evolved through, other people writing scripts for me and how they see my character, and then just me also going, you know what, I could use this as a character and I could do this and this, and so yeah, he's actually kind of evolved, but he actually started off as me.
All right. And now, kind of just more on a personal note, I've always wondered, and this is just my personal thing, where'd you come up with the name Jew Wario?
Well, I have a friend who named Jonathan Mann, and he used to do music as the Game Jew. And I became a big fan of his and really liked his music. Well, in his band, he had a guy named a Jew Toadstool who wore a toad hat, and did different instruments. Well, I thought, well, my previous moniker online was Professor Noriaki Kakui from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and the fans actually of my JoJopedia site actually gave me the professor part, but nobody can spell Noriaki Kakui. And it's sometimes even harder for a non-Japanese speaker to say it. So I thought, well, I'm Jewish, and Game Jew is kind of happy about and very proud of being Jewish. You know what? I'll ask him if it's okay if I change it to something like that, since I'm always on his streams and he's always talking to me, and he's like, yeah, sure, you go ahead. So I thought, well, Jewichi? No, that wouldn't work. That sounds really bad. And I thought, well, my favorite character is actually Wario. And it's because he's bold, he's brash, he doesn't care about anything. But the big thing was that I'm a big fan of anti-heroes. So, the hero is kind of like, but the anti-hero, I'm not a big anti-hero. So I thought, well, I like Wario. Jew Wario. Well, it's got a W in it. That'd be cool, So it just kind of came from that. And it wasn't until later somebody even told me, you know what? Wario's kind of a money-grubbing, big-nosed guy. Don't you think that's a stereotype? I'm like, I didn't even think about it. I just thought he was cool.
We're just a big ball of racial stereotypes. So if you want to join Team J-Dub, pick a racial stereotype and just milk it, and then
We need a Russian. We need a Russian.
the Russian.
I'll become a white guy who knows karate.
He'll be 80s action star. That's kind of the thing that we need.
Well, that's how it.
I also find it funny that it's like you picked Wario, and yet Jew Wario himself has turned into this lovable goof. This kind of coward, and it's like it's still the exact opposite of what the character of Wario. And Yankee J is more a Jew Wario than Jew Wario.
I don't know. I think
That's all right.
Yankee J actually kind of is becoming less and less Yankee personally, but we'll see where everything goes.
He's got a soft spot for Justin.
Oh, he does. He's just brilliant.
I always liked the fact that you had Wario because I've known my Bizarro for many years, and to me, Wario is the Bizarro of the Marioverse. I've always seen him as like, well, take everything Mario stands for and flip it upside down. I'm like, well, take everything Superman stands for and flip it upside down.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's cool. This seems like someone who, I should check what his stuff is. And then I was like, oh my god, I played some of those games. So just on that personal note. But Mark, you've done pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I need to know more about that. I mean, how did you get into that? When I think pro wrestler, I think of like a 7 foot tall, 4 foot wide of muscle, like rah, monster man.
You're thinking picture that's a little bit different.
Yes.
Well, yes, I'm not 7 to 500 pounds. Yes. Well, the thing is that when I was little, I used to do judo, and I always was very active as a kid, and I did it for 10 years, and then I stopped competing, and so it kind of just became a little bit boring. So I quit judo, and then for a year I was just kind of sitting around, and I wasn't doing anything, and I was like, I need to do some kind of activity, and it was during that time. It was during that time. It was the year 2000, and my friend started watching wrestling, and I was like, oh, that stupid fake thing, blah blah blah, what everyone says. I used to watch in the 80s, but then I grew up, sort of thing. But then I realized it was more than just professional wrestling. To me, it really was live action anime. It's the closest thing. Well, not like live action slice of life anime, but live action like, fighting anime or something like that. I mean, even in anime, professional wrestling is a martial art, and in video games. So I figured, well, I don't want to become a boxer, I don't want to become a fighter, but this seems like it's a lot of fun to watch. It must be a lot of fun to do. So then I proceeded to call a bunch of local wrestling schools, and I finally hit one. And I went in and I just kind of sat down one night and I watched it, and it was like, this is for me. And so I signed up and I started training, and then like the first 3 months, every time I coughed, I would get a sharp pain in my back, and I was like, oh, if this is what it's going to be like as a wrestler, I don't want to do it. But luckily, it slowly went away, and then I became a professional wrestler. 8 months down the line, I had my first show. They basically let me pick my character, and I picked this character called Hop Sing Lee, where I wore a happy coat and a tie and a dress shirt. And see, it's not very much different than what I am right now. And the thing is, the Hop Sing Lee character was only supposed to be a temp thing, but as they say in wrestling, if your character is like way popular, you don't change it. The only reason you would change your character is if the crowd isn't into it and you're struggling. But the moment I got out in the squared circle, it was like something happened and the crowd was totally into me. And it was like whether I was a good guy or a bad guy, they loved to just yell at me. So
I can vouch for that.
And I always meant to change the character, but because it was so popular, I I never did, and so I've been hop-sing waiting for the past 11 years now.
Wow. Well, it's good to know your character is left.
Yeah.
That's better than saying, like, I went to like 4 different characters. Finally found one that worked.
Exactly. And the thing is that it's not uncommon for a wrestler to go through 4 different characters before they finally pick one. So yeah.
That's great. Samantha, I have to actually ask, your character began more as a cameo is not the right word, a supporting character with the, I believe it was the Para Paradise episode. And then eventually you started doing anime basics. How did you, what made you decide to do anime basics?
I actually didn't really want to be on camera. When I did the cameo or whatever support for Mark's Paradise episode, I was really nervous and I didn't really want to do it, and I basically was forced in front of the camera. And we shot this entire episode and all the footage came out really, really bad, and so we had to do it again. And the second time it was a lot easier because I knew all my lines, like there was no, I knew exactly what I needed to do and everything, and I felt a lot more comfortable with it. And then when Mark and I started talking about what we could do with this character, the Psykoneko, it was more of like, okay, I could see myself doing this thing now. But I never really meant for it to go anywhere, really. Like, I was so nervous about getting the camera that first time. I'd never even really thought about having my own show with it. So, it's interesting.
And, of course, another big question I think is on most people's minds, how do you decide what topic, this is for all 3 of you, what topic, game, etc. to do for your newer episodes?
I just do whichever ones I really like. Whichever game that interests me, either at the time or new ones that I get. And I've been importing for about 20 years. I've got a lot of games that are not you can play this, but I've got a lot of games that are. And if something catches my eye at a specific moment, sometimes I'll just go, yeah, I should review that game. And a week later I get a review of it. So sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes maybe it's, Halloween's coming up. Oh, I better try and find a scary game, so I'll choose, this game or something.
And I interrupt, but
no, please.
The Halloween videos you do are very, I love watching you just like freak out.
That is 100% Justin Carlyle. That is not faked. That is not anything. That is actually me being scared to death.
Oh, we might be getting kicked out. Are we getting kicked out?
Okay.
Ikunya bidanga nai